Gun the captain of the ship, yeah. And it's like a lotus, so it's time to flip the script, yeah. Cruising through the bay on that fucking red battleship, sold up, screaming out. What you heard? So what you heard? So what you heard?
All right, welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And I love to talk football. And this is the time to be talking football. I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Pless. How are you doing tonight, Michael?
Doing great, Gene. 2-0, first place.
Oh, yeah, it's something to put a smile on your face. And we do have a special guest tonight, Tom Bassinger. This guy here, he writes for the, I almost said the Tribune. I'm throwback, I'm sorry, the Tampa Bay Times. And great friend of the show, always welcome on the show, and I enjoy getting his perspective. How are you doing tonight, Tom?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And, Tom, I want to jump right in here because we're talking about a victory over the Super Bowl champions. The Buccaneers had a similar opportunity last year with the New England Patriots, them being the, at that time, Super Bowl champions, and they weren't able to deliver on it. What you're seeing now is a team, they were able to go in and do what they needed to do. And that's on both sides of the ball. And we just didn't see that last year. And I loved your article. I kind of want to get your thoughts on the game, your overall takeaway from the game.
Well, my overall takeaway is that we saw a lot of the same things that we saw on opening week, which was a very aggressive football team that wasn't afraid to throw the ball down the field. Even against, I think what we would all consider to be one of the league's top 5 defenses. And they didn't let up, and they stuck with what worked. In the past, this has been a team that's wanted to establish the run. In week 1, they came out throwing, and they continued to do that this past Sunday, even when they had the lead. To me, one of the things that really kind of stuck out was the last 5 minutes of the second quarter. That's when the game really swung. I feel like the previous Buccaneers teams might have played it really safe the past couple of minutes, but they were pass, run, pass, touchdown. And then the play that sealed the game. It wasn't, Mike Evans, I think, was the one that really closed the door. But back up a couple plays earlier, there was a 2nd and 13, which came after a 3-yard loss on a first down run. An out route pass to Deshaun Jackson that sealed the game. Really, at that point, the margin. The game was pretty well in hand at that point. So to me, what stuck out again Sunday was the continued aggressiveness via the pass.
Yeah, and plus, I want to get your thoughts on that next.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what Tom said. I mean, last year the Bucs were just so predictable in the first quarter, especially with the run game. They try to run it. And I think that was more based off the offensive line that they had. And now that offensive line is much stronger, especially with the addition of Ryan Jensen. And now you can see this offense, what it's supposed to be, and that's a passing offense. It's a pass-first offense, and they have the weapons to utilize that. And I think that's why you're seeing a more aggressive offense, passing on first down more often, setting yourself up and third and manageable situations, and it's working right now. But I mean, it helps when you can get 2 75-yard touchdown plays on one play drives. So it just shows you how explosive this team can be because of the personnel that they have. So I agree. Being aggressive, that is something they have to continue to do. I would like to see them stay a little bit more in their offense, especially when they have those big leads and really put it to the opponent. But I understand why they're trying to, run the ball, run some clock. I think they only had like 7 rushing attempts in the first half. So that kind of wore out their defense a little bit. And you could see that in the second half when the Eagles, they started to move the ball a little bit easier. But overall, it was a great performance and a big win for this team. And now you have a chance to go 3-0 when many, including a lot of the local media and obviously the national media, they said, we're going to be 0-3 after these first 3 games. And I can't blame them. I mean, you look at this schedule, it's a very tough schedule. And for us to be 2-0, we're in a great spot.
All right. And I'll kind of bring up the end here. For me, I'm looking at the intangibles. I look at the team last year, and it just seemed like they didn't have that cohesiveness. I'm seeing a team that's playing together, that's playing for one another, and you didn't really see that last year a whole. I mean, it's just like something was missing, and it's like it seems like everybody's buying in right now, and everybody's working together. You saw a lot less issues with communication in this game. I really like how, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you have 2 rookies out there, and then Chris Conte gets hurt, and you have another rookie out on the field. And just the fact that they were able to hold it together and play the way they did, it's remarkable. I really enjoyed watching that game. So to me, I like what they've done, and this all started in the offseason with the moves that Jason Light made. Then it kind of continued with the draft. And you talk about draft picks that are part of the 54-man roster. And it's just it's something that's incredible when you look at it and what they're doing right now. So yeah, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And they're doing this too without their first 2 draft picks, Vita Vea and Ronald Jones.
Right. Yeah. And guys, keep this in mind. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. The Bucs are winning without having those guys on the field. They're winning without some of their injured players. And I think this bodes well for the team on the back end of the season when, because normally injuries, you get a lot nicked up and you try to limp into the bye week and then get healed up a little bit and get ready for the back end of the season. You got players that are going to be fresh, like a Kendall Beckwith. Vita Vea, we don't know when he's going to come back, but eventually he will come back and he will play. So Brent Grimes, another person that you haven't heard about him, but these guys are doing a good job. And, he's somebody that could come in and help this team on the back end of the season. So just because you're not seeing your guy right now, you can't be upset about this. You have to enjoy the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a 2-0 team going into a Monday Night Football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's really exciting to see that they're able to take advantage of these things and, make them work. I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat here. And then I guess I'm going to go to the next topic I wanted to kind of touch on was just the overall game. I know that the national media is starting to buy into Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I know you written an article about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I wanted to talk to you about that. Do you think that he's for real with what the way he's been playing in the preseason going into the regular season?
Is this a question for me?
Yeah, it's a question for you.
It's hard to say. We all know the history, right?
Yeah.
Then again, we've never seen 2 games back to back like this.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote today that, I think there's a case to be made that this run can last a little bit long. It's not going to be at this level. He's not going to keep throwing 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. But I think it's realistic for him to continue playing at an above average level, which, if this defense can rise to the occasion, could be good enough to get this team into the playoffs. And I'm saying that based on what they have at receiver, based on how good the protection has been along the offensive line, and then just maybe what might be a trend in the NFL this season. And this is what I wrote today for TampaBay.com, that week 2 in the NFL was, according to Chase Stewart of Football Perspective, was the greatest passing day in the history of the league. Of the 28 quarterbacks, 70% completion percentage, 7.8 yards per attempt, 55 touchdowns to only 16 interceptions. So if you were to take the average quarterback from that day and prorate them over the course of the season, that's a 4,000-yard passer that throws 30 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions. That was your average quarterback last Sunday. So, it's possible that we're seeing because of the quarterbacks are safer than ever, and defenders can there's so many limitations. The contact rules are more stringent than ever. We could see scoring's going to go up. I don't know whether it already is, but it will go up. And passing, I suspect is going to go up. I don't know that it's going to be at the pace that it was this past Sunday, but I sense that things are going to tilt even more toward the teams that can pass. So if if the Bucs maintain this kind of aggressive offense, this aggressive mindset, passing on first downs, passing out of run formations, keeping teams off balance in that way, I think it's possible, not promising, but I think it's possible that Fitzpatrick doesn't come cratering down. I mean, there's probably going to be a clunker or two in there, but I'm not ready to say just yet that Jameis Winston should be back right after the bye week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on to kind of go along with that, and plus I'll get you in here in just a second. You look at the lineup that Ryan Fitzpatrick has at wide receiver and tight end, and I went out and looked at every other team he's played for, and I'll check the rosters, and I don't think there's nobody even close. The Jets, the 2015 Jets, may be the closest team talent-wise to what he's looking at right now, and that's not even close. So, I mean, with the tools that he has to work with, and like you mentioned, the rules, and I'm wondering if the rules is hamstringing the defenses, because, I mean, if you're a DB, now you have to think, okay, I got to lead this way. I got to lead with my shoulder. I can't lead with my head. I have to make sure that I'm not hitting him. He's not defenseless before I go into to make the tackle. And there have even been tackles that have been textbook tackles that have been called penalties. So I just wonder if you're kind of, what do you want to say, defang the defense pretty much, and could that have an effect on the league as a whole?
I think so. I think you are going to have defenders that are more hesitant. I think you're seeing that right now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bless, go ahead.
Yeah. You look, I mean, on that point, you look at, I think it was Green Bay and Minnesota. And I want to say Green Bay had one of their defenders had Kirk Cousins in their arms, and he just let him go. Like, he just let him, scramble out because he thought he was going to get a penalty or something. So it's definitely something that's going to change the game for sure. I mean, you look at that game, another point, that Clay Matthews penalty, which was outrageous. So yeah, it's definitely going on. And I think, from a Bucs standpoint, the Bucs have done a good job of coaching that. You look at all three of our sacks, and they all did a good job of making sure they had their body turned, and they were, from a fundamental standpoint, they're tackling the right way. So even the Justin Evans, collision, that was a perfect tackle because he had his head up, even though, he bent his back, 90-degree angle. But back to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think this is very sustainable. I don't think he'll throw 400 yards every week, like Tom said, but I think as far as above average play and being a guy that can be a game manager and put these guys in position to win, I think he can, as long as the players around him stay healthy, offensive line stays healthy, and he's got protection. I think this is very much his team where he can win games consistently. And I don't think it will stop as long as, those parts stay in place, because the dude has arm talent, and he's a veteran, and he understands, as far as line protections and what to look for as far as defenses. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that's fooled anymore because he's seen everything. So I think it's definitely it's a good match right now. I think everything is clicking, especially with chemistry. The receivers love him. I mean, he's putting balls in tight spaces and on the money. So I think it's definitely reasonable to keep him in there as long as the team is winning. I don't think you make a change right now.
Yeah, most definitely. Guys, I have to throw in the running game because I've been hearing this all week long. The Bucs have not been running the ball. I've seen several statistics, but they haven't had to. And I think that plays a big part. I know in the fourth quarter, you know, when you're trying to chew up the clock, and plus you touched on that earlier. It's important to run down the clock and run the ball and try to control things, you know, when you're close to winning. My question to you guys, do you see that there being an issue with the running game, or is it just the fact that they haven't really utilized it like they could have?
I mean, right now, I don't care. I just don't care.
Exactly.
I know that's a little extreme.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
You're right. Yeah.
Go with what works.
I mean, you might find yourself in a situation at some point where you really need a yard on, or a couple of yards on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, 4th and 2. There are going to be those kinds of situations. So, I mean, at some point, this might come up and it might be an issue. But for the time being, and I wrote about this before the season in our when the Times published its NFL preview, and I wrote a piece about Cutter's play calling at the time and the established the run mentality and how it wasn't working for the Bucs, and what was happening was they were falling behind. What you want to do is you want to jump on teams and you want to jump on them early. And that's what they did against the Saints. That's what they did against the Eagles. They were up a touchdown at halftime against the Saints. Was it 13 points against the Eagles? And you'd be surprised, but it is such a huge advantage to be up by just a single point at halftime. When I was researching that piece about Cutter, I found that between 70 and 80% of the time, when a team has a lead of a point or more, they go on to win 70 to 80% of the time.
Wow.
I mean, that to me was I mean, it shocked me. But you get that lead, you jump on a team early, and then they have to play catch up. I mean, you only get so many possessions during the course of a football game. So if you're up at halftime, you know, the other team's got to come out of its game plan to adjust to you. You're dictating things. Too often the past few years, other teams were dictating what the Bucs did. And we've seen them totally flip the script this year. So, you know, running the football, yeah, I don't care. If it were up to me, I'd probably run the football. I mean, I'd probably pass 70, 80% of the time. It's crazy to me that people run the football. I mean, you're running into you're taking one guy with the football and running him into a space where there's 10, 11, 12 football players. It's crazy to me running the football.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think, you know, this is a passing league. This league is set up for passing, and, you know, especially with the rules nowadays, I mean, the advantages are there for the taking. So, like a lot of people say, you know, pass first and worry about balance second. You know, that's what I care about. You know, this league is about scoring points, and if you're not scoring points, then you're going to find yourself losing a lot of games. And that was the problem last year. I mean, we couldn't score in the first quarter. You find yourself in the second quarter where you're in predictable situations, and that's where, you know, we got outscored so many times in the second quarter because we had to pass a lot because we were down. So to get the lead at halftime like we have in these first two games, and that pretty much guarantees you, like Tom said, 80% chance of winning those games. I mean, you got to take that. So to be able to jump on teams, that helps your defense, that helps them be more aggressive on that side of the ball as well. You have to be able to do that. And I think as far as running the football, I think that's going to come over time, especially if teams continue to play us in single man high coverage with one safety back. I mean, the Bucs are going to attack that all day with the passing game because any defense in this league, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you have, you're not going to be able to play man defense against this receiving core. You're just not. It's too impossible. So when teams start to play more zone coverage and they have two safeties back, then you'll start to see the runs come in where you can use Peyton Barber. But to be honest, the Bucs need to continue to run the ball out of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, because that's where they have the most success. You have less guys in the box. It's going to create more space, and that gets you better yards per carry. So, but to Tom's point, I completely agree. Throw the rock. That's where your strengths lie. And the way the team is pass protecting, it's going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, most definitely. And I kind of want to, just get your final thoughts on this game. We're going to talk about the Steelers game, because that's a game to me that I'm kind of nervous about. But I do want to get your final thoughts. Anything that you see that the Bucs can carry over against into this next season, this next game, that they were doing well in this game here.
Well, I think, and Michael brought it up. I'm a numbers guy. I'm into the data.
Yes, and I love it.
But the chemistry factor here, I was in the locker room after the game, and I saw Deshaun Jackson dressing Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a connection here, and I mean, just you guys have seen the press conference. Press conferences usually are really buttoned up. They're really boring. Nobody really says anything, but it was fun. It was fun. And that's something I've only really experienced a handful of times covering this team. It was it started getting fun at the end of 2016 when they made that run.
Yeah.
But this past couple of games, I mean, the thing is, guys are buying in. They're believing, and as long as that's working, I'm not messing with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I would hope that they carry over from the first couple of games into week 3. Now we haven't really had to see them battle through any adversity. So that's something I'm looking for.
All right. And plus, go ahead.
Yeah, and to that point, I think they're just having fun out there, and you can see it on the field. They're just having a good time, and these guys really, I think the overall connection between each unit, from offense, defense, and special teams, all these guys, like Tom said, have bought in, and there's more. I guess everyone just cares about each other. I think everyone cares about doing their job because they don't want to disappoint the guy next to them. And I think that's something that was definitely missing last year. And you hear, guys talking about, DeMar Dotson, I think, brought it up. He's like, yeah, there's no bad eggs in this locker room, i.e., Chris Baker, and they got rid of him. So I think, just the overall chemistry, the overall chemistry is way much better. So, but as far as going in, final thoughts from that game, I thought the secondary, especially the young kids, I thought they looked a lot much better. They looked confident. So I liked how they played, and I like to see that carry over into Pittsburgh, because I think the secondary is going to face their toughest test with the Pittsburgh receiving core. And Big Ben is still Big Ben. So they're going to be that's going to be the toughest challenge they've seen so far defensively.
Yeah. And again, when we're going to jump right into the Pittsburgh Steelers game, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they had had a tie against the Cleveland Browns, and then they lost against the Kansas City Chiefs in a shootout. This is a team, they're looking for their first win of the season. So this is one of those games that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm hoping they took away from last season, that you have to take it game by game. I'm hoping that they learned from the 5 wins last season that you can't take any game for granted, and you have to go in and play the game, no matter who comes up. I'm looking at the Steelers team. I realize that AB didn't show up for practice. I don't know what's going on there. There's a lot of inner turmoil. Le'Veon Bell is in Miami on a jet ski. hanging out. Nothing's getting done with that. Their running game was atrocious on against the Chiefs. I had never seen anything like that. That's very un-Steeler-esque to say the least, just watching that game. This is a very winnable game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a game, the defense, they have to show up and they have to play in their assignments and they have to execute. That's going to be very important, here with this game. To me, this is a very important game too. Tony Dungy being inducted into the Ring of Honor. It's a Monday Night Football game. This is a game where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can show the rest of the football world, hey, this is what we're all about.
Mm-hmm.
And just jump in. I'm sorry, just kind of jump in wherever you want to. But I want to
go ahead, Tom.
I want to get your top thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. How do they match up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Well, I'll start off by saying, this looks like we're heading into this week, and it looks like things are aligning really well for the Bucs, right? They're playing better offensively than I've ever seen them, and I think it's pretty. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say, given this franchise's struggles on offense in the past, maybe the best ever. That and then you take into account the Steelers' struggles on the field and off the field. No Le'Veon Bell. This is the issue this week with Antonio Brown not showing up for work. I mean, and Ben Roethlisberger has been hasn't looked very good. So
yeah,
it does seem like one of those games, right, where things are aligning for the Bucs, but that's just when the NFL throws you a curve and what you thought was going to happen doesn't. I think this is a really dangerous game for the Bucs. I mean, it was a game before the season that I thought they might be able to beat the Steelers. I thought they were going to lose to the Saints. I thought they were going to lose to the Eagles. So you can totally throw out whatever I say here, but this strikes me as a dangerous game. The Steelers are 1-1. Do I have that right? They tied the Browns. They lost to the
right. Yeah.
This is a team that needs a win. Bad in the Steelers. They need this game more than the Bucs. And I do wonder. I try not to get too caught up in the emotion. Sometimes that stuff can be overrated, but they are really desperate for a win.
Yeah. Plus, I want to get your thoughts too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going based off that point, I think, this is definitely a must win for Pittsburgh. They're probably going to put their best foot forward. I think, looking at their first two games, they have slow, they gotten off to slow starts. So I think if the Bucs, like they've done in the past 2 weeks, can match that intensity early and get off to a fast start, I think they have a very good chance. Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, offensively, they're trying to hit that big play early. It looks like they take a couple shots per game where they're just trying to go down the field. But I mean, just very inconsistent right now from an offensive standpoint, and then defensively, they're all over the place defensively. I mean, secondary is miscommunicating on a lot of stuff. They're asking their outside corners to cover from outside to inside. I mean, I think Kansas City had one touchdown where they're asking their outside corner to cover the slot receiver while covering their guy. And it was easy touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. So there is definitely opportunities to take advantage of that, especially with our skill sets offensively. But I think, the main thing is getting after Big Ben and stopping the run, obviously. But like Tom said, I think this could be a trap game. So I think as long as the Bucs are focused, I think they have a very good chance of matching up and winning this game because just of the overall chemistry, and Pittsburgh is just a mess right now, to be honest. I mean, just, Antonio Brown is upset and, no Le'Veon Bell. Defensively, they just don't really have any guys that can really be a difference maker. Outside of TJ Watt, he's decent, but they just don't have the guys like they used to in the past.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just looking at this Steelers team, I know Ben Roethlisberger's a little nicked up right now. He's not 100%. Joe Hayden probably won't play with the hamstring injury that he has. There's just a lot of players that they have that are kind of dinged up right now, and we don't know what's going on in the locker room. I'm not even gonna try to guess what's going on right now, only because when people outside of the Tampa Bay area try to tell the Buccaneers fans and everybody that's been following them what's going on, and they really don't know, it just doesn't sound right. But I will say this, this is one of those games that Tampa should be able, if they're able to do what they've been doing these first two games in this game, they should be able to do a great job. I look at what Mahomes did against the Steelers team, and it was a clinic. Just what he was doing is just the defense allowed him to come back into the game, and I think that the Buccaneers front four is a lot better than what Pittsburgh has seen. I don't know about Cleveland. It's kind of hard to match them up different schemes, but just so far this year, I would have to say this will probably want to be one of the toughest tests defensive wise for the Steelers.
Yeah, see, the thing is about the Steelers is I never really know what to expect from them. They're just one of these teams that just seems really kind of erratic, doesn't really seem to have it together, seems really consistent, but then at the end of the year, there they are atop the AFC North, and they're in, with 11 wins, and they're in the playoffs, and they're looking like a Super Bowl contender. I don't ever really know how they do it, but there they are, and I'm not sure whether typically they seem to be really inconsistent in September, especially on the road, and then they seem to pull it together. Just remember last year, same deal with Le'Veon Bell. Ben Roethlisberger was talking about retirement, and then they, everybody was starting to count him out, and then they took off. So, but then down the stretch, I think right around the time that Shazier suffered that scary accident, their defense really struggled, and then gave up. I can't remember 45 points to the Jaguars in the playoff game. Yeah. So which Steelers are we going to see? The Steelers team that's inconsistent in September and then suddenly pulls it together, or are we going to see the Steelers team that struggled defensively during the second half and has continued to struggle defensively to start the season? I don't know.
Well, I have to ask you. Just put your coach's hat on. I want to know, how does the Buccaneers, how do you game plan against a Pittsburgh Steelers team? Like, I don't know if you've gotten to watch them yet this season. I watched them a couple of times, and I'm just kind of curious, how would you game plan against a Steelers team?
I mean, I've taken a pass through the game against the Chiefs, and Michael got at this a little bit. I mean, they're a mess. I don't know whether it's a communication issue or what it is, but they're leaving guys wide open, and I go back to what we were talking about earlier. The Bucs' strength is their passing game, and the Steelers just gave up 6 passing touchdowns. So my plan is to keep going to Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and I don't know that it's been talked about very much around here, but I think we're beginning to see the emergence of OJ Howard. He is. I wrote about this earlier in the week a little bit. He is a matchup nightmare, and I think maybe a little forgotten about because he doesn't have. He's not as in the spotlight as much as Mike Evans or Deshaun Jackson or Ryan Fitzpatrick, but 6'6", 250 pounds. He is a matchup nightmare, and it would not surprise me at all if very soon we're talking about him as one of the best tight ends in the NFL. like a Rob Gronkowski. He could be a real problem for them, and it's unfortunately it's coming at the expense of some of Cam Brate's snaps. But I'm relying on my passing game, and we might be in. I almost hesitate to say this because it'll go the other way, but we might be in for a shootout. And you saw what happened in New Orleans. You're going to be trading blows back and forth until somebody turns the ball over. So it really could be that simple. They're back and forth. One team turns the ball over, and that's where things shift.
Personally, I'm looking. I hear people talking about Cam Brate. You're eventually going to see Cam Brate on the field at some point between now and the end of the season. You'll start to see him. The Bucs are winning right now, and they have a formula that's working for them. And the way I see it, we'll see Cam Brate when we see him. He's on this team for a reason. He was given a contract for a reason. And, it's amazing that O.J. Howard fell into the Buccaneers' laps at number 19. Nobody expected it. I remember myself, we actually did we talked about the draft. And I can remember we didn't even talk about O.J. Howard because we figured he was gone at 9 or 10. So nobody did anything with him. And then all of a sudden, here's this guy, and he drops down into your lap. He's a guy who beats up linebackers, and he blocks downfield, and he's faster than people give him credit for. I mean, you can't stick a linebacker on him as fast as he is. Just watching him running his routes, and he's getting better. Last year, if you watched his route running, I looked all 22. I watched a lot of games watching his route running, and watching him now, it's like night and day. This guy, he knows what to do, and he's making the most of his opportunities. And that should be everybody in the NFL that is going to face the Bucs should be worried about that guy right there.
Yeah, I talked to him after the game and talked to him a little bit about the interception and then how he came back a couple series later, caught that 75-yard touchdown pass. And let's not forget about Chris Godwin either, who had a big block at the end of that play of Malcolm Jenkins. Totally took him out of the picture. But, in talking to O.J. Howard about that sequence of events there, that's a very, very confident football player.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another guy we haven't. Oh, go ahead, Plus. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to add to O.J. Howard. I mean, not many people saw this, but O.J. Howard pretty much handled Brandon Graham on the first play of the game. I mean, he blocks a defensive end by himself, and that sets up the play to Deshaun Jackson for an easy 6. So to have an asset like that, like O.J. Howard, who can take on defensive ends and pretty much help your offensive line double team, that sets up everything. I mean, it makes your pass protection that much better. But yeah, I mean, OJ is he's LeBron James in a football uniform. I mean, that's what Deshaun Jackson called him. And I mean, the skill sets that he has and the potential, we haven't even seen the surface yet of what this guy can become. I think he'll be better than a Gronkowski, to be honest, because he has more speed. He's got better physicality. And for now, for the most part, he stayed healthy, and hopefully that continues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just as we look down here, this team, they can do a lot with this. And the offensive line, and we haven't even talked about the offensive line. Ryan Jensen is unbelievable to be able to.
It's the reason we're winning. Yeah, it's the reason we're winning. They're dominating up front. That's why we're winning.
Yeah, the guy is a freaking monster. I mean, he's out there doing what he needs to do. And I think plus you were more excited than anybody when the Buccaneers finally closed that deal to get him in.
Oh yeah,
and it was incredible.
Yeah, I got the confirmation from his dad, so it was very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that what he's able to do. Everything that he was doing, he's doing better here. He's a great leader, and I know he's gotten a little bit of laundry on the field, but you know what? That's fine, because he's letting people know, hey, don't come in here trying to run over this team. It's something that this offensive line hasn't had for many years. Somebody that's that aggressive and somebody that's that passionate, and they go out there and play like that.
And the fact that they're able to move Ali Marpet back to guard, I don't think he was bad at center by any stretch, but I think he's a better guard.
Absolutely.
I don't think in pass protection he's given up a pressure this year.
Nope.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that from Pro Football Focus today. So, I think Ali Marpet is. I think the whole offensive line is better because I was a little unsure about Jensen because he only had that one good year in Baltimore, and he's the highest paid center in the NFL. I wasn't sure that he'd live up to that contract, but he's been really good, and I think as Plus was talking about, and you too, help establish a mentality that maybe we haven't seen along the offensive line for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Plus. Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to get back to the Pittsburgh, how to attack Pittsburgh, and like Tom was saying, I think just passing offense, I think you can really take advantage of their secondary. I expect the Bucs to come out and spread formations like they've shown, and continue to just light it up on the scoreboard with passing offense because as long as we have time, I think Fitzpatrick can pick them apart because their secondary right now is they're just all over the place, leaving a lot of space on the outside, a lot of space up the seams. And I think, you come out in 11 personnel and I think you can have very, very good success. And I think this could be actually a good game for Peyton Barber because they are giving up 4.8 yards per carry. So it could be a well-balanced game, passing and running attack. So could be good things. And like Tom said, I think it could be a shootout as well. So could be a very fun Monday night game.
Yeah, most definitely. Go ahead.
And to follow up on that, I wrote about this, again in today's story, and you can find that at Tometrics. I tweeted it out just before the show,
and I retweeted it.
Oh, thank you. The key, the key here. There's two main keys to me in Ryan Fitzpatrick's performance so far this season. One, he's getting the ball out quickly. In 2.25 seconds, I saw, which is faster than Brady's getting it out. So, right. So he's getting rid of the ball quickly, which is helping the offensive line, of course. But he's not being careless with the football either. I mean, he has been in the past. I mean, we know he's experienced. He's seen a lot of things, but he's also forced a lot of throws into double coverage. But he's taking care of the football this year, and I'm going to say in his 5 starts, he's thrown 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And one of those interceptions was this past Sunday. Was that O.J. Howard kind of bobble? Ball pops out when he's hit. So he, I don't think he's fumbled at all. So right there, as long as you don't turn the football over, I mean, it's really obvious, but like it's really that simple. You don't turn the ball over, you're going to be in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes back to what I was talking about with all the weapons that he has. I look at him in the past, and I've looked at him in some of his other games. He's only had maybe one receiver, maybe one tight end, a running back that was serviceable, but he's never had this complement of weapons at his disposal. So he's not having to force the ball here. He can find the open man because somebody's going to run themselves open at some point, and he'll be able to do what he needs to do. And that's kind of what I've seen. You couple that with the offensive line, and we just talked about Ryan Jensen. We talked about Ali Marpet, Caleb Benenoch, and some of the other Dotson. These guys are doing their job. They're keeping him upright. I mean, he had a clean jersey against the Saints, and in this game, he got a few hits. But again, it's just one of those things where he's had time to do what he needs to do. and they're not playing from behind. They're playing ahead. So he's not having to force balls in to do anything. And that's kind of, I guess it couples with why he's not throwing interceptions, this season, or making plays that would have in the past, it would have hurt the team. So he's got a lot more options in this season than he's had in the past. And I think he's making the most of it.
Yeah. The Eagles were able to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say that, the Eagles got to him, quite a bit. I want to say he was pressured on about a third of his dropbacks. They hit him a few times, but he was actually really good under pressure. And that's not something, I'm going to expect all the time, because if you're under pressure all the time, eventually those numbers are going to, come crashing back down to earth. But I want to say, he threw all 3 of his 4 touchdowns when under pressure this past Sunday. So, I feel like, I don't want to talk about Fitzpatrick's success at the expense of Winston, but we're not seeing very many 50-50 balls. I don't feel like, and we were seeing, we'd see Winston in the past, and he talked about this, he wants to give his guys a chance. And we're seeing Fitzpatrick right now, whether it's, I think it's partially the play calling, partially the scheming, but he's just taking care of the football and not, not forcing it.
Right. And guys, and folks, listeners, you guys know we're huge Jameis Winston supporters. I will say this: Ryan Fitzpatrick is putting touch on the ball. He's these long passes that he's throwing, they're dropping where they need to drop. And you're not having to slow down. You're catching a ball in stride. With Deshaun Jackson catching the ball in stride, he gets that touchdown. If he has to wait on the ball to get there, or he has to come back to the ball, that's not a touchdown on that pass, the initial pass. I'm not taking anything away from any of the quarterbacks. I'm just saying this is what we're seeing right now, is a quarterback that's putting the ball where it needs to go. And
it's so accurate.
Accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we haven't seen a lot of in the past. We started seeing it. And I noticed it in the Arizona Cardinals game when Winston went down last year and Fitzpatrick hit Deshaun Jackson in stride in the third quarter. And I was like, wow, he put touch on that ball. You don't see it very often. And that's what you saw. So, again, I'm not taking anything away from any quarterback. I'm not taking any sides in this. It's all about wins and losses. The Buccaneers are long overdue in getting to the playoffs, and whoever gets the Bucs to the playoffs, if you had to call Jack Thompson from the 80s to throw in Samoan and get him out here to throw some balls and we can win, I want to do that. So it doesn't matter who it is out there on the field. I just want this team to win. They deserve that. The fans deserve that. Season ticket holders deserve that. Fans that save up their money to go to a game deserve this. I mean, it's just been a long time coming, and it doesn't matter how we get there, but it's just the fact that we do get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're having so much success right now that how could you go to Deshaun Jackson and say, hey, we're going to make a change? How could you go to the free agents you just brought in, Vinny Curry and Bo Allen, and say, hey, we know you guys haven't lost a game since last December, but we need to make a change at quarterback? How could you say that to, say, Gerald McCoy, Levante David? They're 2-0, and
we haven't seen this since 2010.
Playoffs are a possibility.
We haven't seen 2-0 since 2010.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a real shot here at with the Falcons have suffered some really serious injuries on defense.
Yeah.
I think the Panthers can be beaten. They've already got one against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 wins suddenly. I don't want to overrate the first 2 games of the season, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to throw this in here. Ren Dax had mentioned something about destroying everybody in Tom's fantasy league. He said everybody's going down, basically. So I just had to put that out there.
I'm 0-2. I think I lost. I think I lost this week to the highest scoring team in the league.
Oh wow!
I don't know when I don't know when I face. I'm facing Ren.
Can you please tweet this out? Please tweet this out just so we know what happens when this head-to-head matchup occurs between you and Ren. I want to get this out here. This is big news right here. This is like Mayweather or McGregor or something. This is big news.
I'm showing no mercy, Ren.
No mercy, Ren. You hear that? No, but I do want to get back to this. And, this is going to be a special game. And I want to take a moment to talk about Tony Dungy. This is a guy that he pretty much turned the Buccaneers around for the Tampa Bay area. We can go back to 79 and talk about that. But just with the new ownership and with the players that Rich McKay was able to bring in through the draft, and just what Tony Dungy got from Sam Weiss, and they were able to change the culture, and they got the team to buy in, then they got the community to buy in. And Tony Dungy means a lot to Tampa sports in general. I mean, this is where you had your first real success, other than the Tampa Bay Bandits when you go back to USFL. But realistically, this is the success that, Tampa needed. And once they had that, it was great just having him here. And if you were here in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was an incredible time. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that we cannot miss on, when we're talking about the Buccaneers.
Yeah, when you think about the Mount Rushmore of Tampa Bay sports, I think one of those faces has got to be Tony Dungy. Buccaneers football wasn't relevant until Tony Dungy, and I think the thing that sticks out the most to me is his steadiness, his resolve, his how he didn't waver, even when he first got here and the team struggled. I'm sure there were some scary moments. I mean, he's talked about some of those, but the fact that he didn't waver, and I think the players saw that, and eventually the players bought into that. So I really think they took the lead from Dungy. And what we've seen over the years since Dungy's been gone is a very kind of reactive organization. Obviously bringing Gruden in was a reaction to the lack of offensive success, but you have Greg Schiano is a reaction to Raheem, and Lovie Smith is a reaction to Greg Schiano, and then Dirk Cutter's a reaction to you can't let Dirk Cutter interview anywhere else, so you got to fire Lovie Smith. So this organization fired Tony Dungy, and they've never gotten anything close to him since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, I think, you look at Dungy, I think it just his overall consistency, but the main thing is, like Tom said, I mean, he just stayed true to who he was, and he really brought the identity for the Buccaneers. I mean, when you talk Buccaneers, you think of Tony Dungy and that defense, you think of Monty Kiffin and what he brought as far as the coaching staff that he had, and Herm Edwards, Mike Tomlin, Joe Barry, the list goes on and on. Rod Marinelli, just his overall coaching tree, his legacy that he's laid down for this game, and the success that other people have had because of him, and his ability to, he's put Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, all those guys in positions to succeed and become the players that they were. It just shows you how great a man he was, not only as a coach, but as a man off the field in the community, and what he did for this for this area. It shouldn't be forgotten, and I don't think it never will be.
Yeah, most definitely. It's long overdue, but I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad he's here. And this is exciting. This is exciting for me. I'm looking forward to it. And again, the Buccaneers are the talk of the NFL, and it's exciting to have that right here. So just on that note, I want to know just your final thoughts. Do you see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers continuing this trend? Blah blah blah. Continuing this trend, with this game, and do you see them winning this game?
Oh boy,
I know I put you on the spot. And the thing is, this is what makes it tough. It's a Monday night game, which the Steelers always show up for a Monday night game. And, the Buccaneers have a little bit of momentum coming into this game. So it should be kind of interesting. I'm just kind of, and we won't hold this against you. I'm not, I will never hold this against you. I just kind of get your thoughts on this,
Well, like I said, I've taken one pass through that last game, the Steelers and the Chiefs, and watching that game, and then watching what the Bucs did to the Eagles. Now, granted, the Eagles were not at full strength. They didn't have Carson Wentz. They lost Jason Peters. And you go back and you watch the All-22. Those receivers weren't getting open. So I know Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP, but even that offense was nowhere near what it was in February. But that win counts just like any other. So, but just comparing those two performances last week, it's really tempting to lean toward the Bucs, to start buying in. I'm still skeptical. The Bucs in prime time, the Steelers versus the Steelers in prime time. I could just see the Steelers somehow figuring it all out and surprising us all. The Bucs defense still worries me a little bit.
And then let me catch you. I mean to cut you off.
Oh.
What do you see in the Bucs defense that really worries you? Is it the front four, or is it the linebackers? Is it the secondary? What are you seeing?
I think it's a secondary, and I don't know. I mean, yes, Michael Thomas. We saw what happened with Michael Thomas in week one. I want to be really careful about judging what happened on Sunday, because again, that Eagles receiving core was decimated.
Right.
So a guy like Antonio Brown, could really wreak havoc, especially if say Brent Grimes isn't back. He can line up anywhere. He can run any route. Yards after the catch. He could be a real nightmare, and could give these young defensive backs an education. I think Ryan Smith. I was really happy for Ryan Smith. Has had a really difficult tenure here in Tampa Bay. Was really happy for him and his performance on Sunday. I thought Carlton Davis, Jordan Whitehead really stood out to me.
Yeah.
MJ Stewart.
It remains to be seen. I think he's a work in progress, but I think he's better than what we've had in Tampa for, I don't know that. I'm trying to think who I would put him with, but I think, what he's doing, and as aggressive as he is, I'm very surprised at what he's been able to do since being here.
I mean, he's been totally thrust into this role, and to make the adjustment at this level this quickly, that's not an easy thing to do. So to give you an answer, at this point, I lean toward picking the Bucs, but they're the Bucs.
Michael Pless.
Yeah, I mean, final thoughts. I mean, from these first two games, I think offensively, we're heading in the right direction as far as the passing game goes. Obviously, you're utilizing your weapons and you're finally attacking the mismatch consistently, which is nice to see. Defensively, I think, we're still missing some pieces, obviously, and I think that is something that is delaying how good they can be. I think once they get their defensive line healthy, and I think once you get your especially Kendall Beckwith, I mean, no one's really talked about him, and I think he's a huge asset for this team. I know he only plays limited snaps, but his ability to stop the run but also rush the passer, I think, is a huge asset. So once getting those guys back, and obviously Brent Grimes, I think, is going to help them going forward. But heading into this Monday night game, I think, Pittsburgh, like Tom said earlier, I think they're going to be very desperate. I think they're going to be looking to put everything they have into this game and making sure everything is on point, and they're finally getting what they haven't been doing, and that's defensively. They haven't really done much, but I think they could figure it out because they have the coaching staff. I think that's what kind of scares me. Like Tom said, I mean, it could be that team, like, this is kind of like the Patriots game of last year. That's how I see it. The Patriots, I thought we were going to blow them out because I thought their defense was god awful, but they figured things out, and they played more zone defense, and caused, again, that was Jameis Winston at quarterback, and it caused confusion. But I think we have the pieces to match up with them, but I think the main thing is if we can match their intensity early and put up points, because I think this offense can hang with them, but like, it's going to come down to a turnover. I think it'll be very similar to the Saints game. If we can force that big turnover, then we can get the edge.
Yeah. And, just looking at this team, if they do have Antonio Brown, you've got Juju Smith-Schuster on the other side of the ball, who's
Juju.
He's balling right now.
Yeah,
and,
Juju's the main guy.
Yeah, he's somebody that scares me. I know what Antonio Brown's capable of, but Juju scares me just the way he plays. And again, they don't have a running game, but the running back they have, Connor, he's serviceable. And then you have Big Ben, who can make plays with his legs. He showed that on Sunday, that if there's 5 yards that you need, he can go get it. And he's not scared to go get it. So this Steelers team is very dangerous. And it's Monday night. They shine on Monday nights. And it's one of those things that this is going to show the Bucs where they are, how much they've progressed. Because when you look at last season, and I have to go back to last season as a reference point, we had a defense that couldn't get 3 and outs. They couldn't stop the run. And what you're seeing this season is a team that's getting 3 and outs in key times, and they're able to stop the run against, when Ajayi was in, they were able to contain him somewhat. Alvin Kamara, another situation. And, I know you can look at it different ways, but just the fact that you have 2 premier running backs like Alvin Kamara and Ajayi, and the Bucs still came out and win the game. I really 100% believe they wouldn't have done this had this been last year, had this been that team last year. So what the defense is doing, I think they're starting to gel. I think they're starting to trust each other a little bit more, just based on what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot less plays where people are out of position, with the exception of Chris Conte at times. But again, it's just one of those things that it's going to take time. This is the 2nd game of the season. We're going into the 3rd game of the season. And again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to continue to get better. Brentson Buckner, I can't think about just how important he's been mentally to the defensive line. They were tired. It was hot outside. You guys, plus you were at the game. You know how hot it was. And just imagine how hot it was on the field. And Brentson Buckner has been preaching to these guys how a lot of the things that they're doing is mental. He's bringing in the mental aspect of this. And I think this is going to pay off as we get further and further along in the season, with little injuries where you try to play through those injuries and you try to power through them. So I believe that this Buccaneers team can beat the Steelers on Monday night if everybody's playing and everybody's executing as they should. And somebody was asking about Marcus Williams. Do you think that we will see Marcus Williams on Monday night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to see him.
All right. Next question. Somebody was asking about Sean Wilson. Do you think that we'll see more of Sean Wilson, in games in the future? I know what he's doing on special teams, but actually running the ball as a change of pace back, do you think that it's possible to see a Sean Wilson in some of these games as we progress in the season?
I think as the season goes on, certainly we certainly could. In the short term, I think he's on the roster because he can return kicks, and they like Peyton Barber, and look, Peyton Barber and Jacquizz Rodgers, they've come up with some really key blocks in pass protection. I think Cutter wants to have guys back there that he can trust.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be hard for Wilson, at least in the short term, to kind of move up the depth chart some, but maybe in time.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, it's hard to believe it's been a whole hour. Again, Tom, you're always welcome on the show. We love having you on. Again, folks, if there's anything you need to know, please follow this guy on Twitter. Tom, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, best way to get a hold of me is at Tometrics, TOMETRICS.
All right. And please don't come with any nonsense or stupid stuff, because it will be a Blocktoberfest if you do. I'm just warning you at your own peril. And Ren Dax had said that he can't hear you from you being down in the basement or something like that, or being in last place or something like that. Yeah.
It's a long season. Right?
Yeah, it's a long season, Ren. Just remember that. Michael Pless has a Real Bucs Talk podcast, which is very informative. I love it. And I think that if you're not subscribed to it, please subscribe to it. It is on iTunes, and he does a great job. I'm happy that he's out here doing this, and he goes into a little bit more in depth than what I would be doing here with my ravings and stuff. Him and Mark, they kind of delve a little bit deeper into the game. And if you want to be prepared for the upcoming game, that's the podcast you want to listen to, is Real Bucs Talk. And Michael Pless, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, you can follow us at Real Bucs Talk. And speaking of the podcast, we'll have, I think, another episode on Friday. So we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and going a little bit more into that game and what to expect and what to look for. But yeah, realbuckstalk.com. You can find more articles there. But yeah, we're always on Twitter. So putting up game tape. We broke down some Eagles tape and put up some clips of the Steelers today. So just rocking and rolling. And it's good times right now. I mean, first place, more wins means more success for guys like us. So I'm really liking it right now. So
yeah, most definitely. And guys, before we get out of here, I just want to say that, the Tampa Bay media, they're doing their jobs. And that's why I was very happy to have Tom on here with us at Buck What You Heard. I'm about getting down to the facts. It's all about knowing what's going on with this team. And you had to take the blinders off and say, okay, this is what's really going on. And I think that's very important. And I know that he's gotten a lot of slander, and reporters like Jenna Lane have gotten a lot of slander for reporting what they report. That's their job, is to report. They're not maliciously going after anybody. And I don't want you to think that they are, because, they have to walk that fine line of being unbiased. And that's what they do. That's why I have him on, because I have so much faith in him and I have so much trust in what he's saying. So, to me, I would have him on anytime, throughout the season. You're going to see him on again if he's willing to come on again. I would be more than happy to have him on. I mean, his stats are on point, and I really love the fact that he's getting out there and he's actually talking to players and he's doing these interviews. So we're very fortunate, to have him on, a guy that's, in the media, that actually is somebody that's a credentialed media person that, can get to these different stories. And he's, you are appreciated. What you do is appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. And hey, if you guys ever want to reach out, you have any questions or story ideas, or you just want to ask me something, feel free. Reach out to me on Twitter, or email me at tbassinger@tampabay.com.
All right. And another person, Michael Pless. If the Bucs ever needed a scout, this is the guy right here. Just some of the things, and he's amazing. And during the draft, Michael Pless is spot on, and just what he's able to do, and it's just amazing. If you get a chance to do that, is just follow him and tweet with him, and he'll get that stuff out there. I was shocked the first time I actually followed him, and we were texting back and forth during the draft, and he was spot on almost, I'd say 90% of the picks. So, he great guy, high football IQ. Please follow him if you're not following him. And as for me, I'm a lunatic. I'm more random than the rest of these guys. I just post about stuff that, this pops in my head. Here, let me post this. So that's just me. But it's all about having fun. It's a great time to be a Bucs fan. And please, take it with a grain of salt. If you don't agree, at least listen to what some of these people have to say, and kind of form your own opinion that way. There's nothing wrong with how you root for the team, but at the same time, you don't want to ruin it for everybody else. But that's pretty much it for me. And I want to thank everybody for being in the chat. The chat was great, and I really appreciate you guys. And we're going to go ahead and roll out of here. And once again, just remember, thank you for tuning in. And Buck, what you heard, we're out.
They're gonna catch another ship, yeah.